Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Five Kingdoms radio program. This is the show where you will discover that you will bring more power, love, joy, freedom, and less chaos into your life. You got Brad Neufeld here, and my cohort today is Rich Post, and we're going to have a good time today. Shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Don't we always have a good time?
A good, fun time. Yeah.
Appreciate all you out there listening to us. Again, we do everything we can to bring you some really good information that's helpful and helping you to magnify your kingdoms, like we talk about in the Tribe of Kings all the time, and also those of you who have the Kingdom Organizer. That's what this show's all about. Today, though, we're going to focus on fatherhood. We're going to discuss becoming an influential father and leader in your kingdoms, because that's one of the things that is very important in life. So, therefore,
probably one of the most important things.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So let's get into it, Rich, a little bit. What is the role of a father? I've got a couple of articles here that I pulled up that I thought we could bounce things off of and get started here. One is by this first one here is called "The Important Role of Dad." While almost every man can father a child, there's so much more to the important role of being a dad in the child's life. So let's look at that. This is an article here by Dr. Cale Gross, who is an educator, an education expert speaker. And so while almost any man can father a child, there's so much more to the important role of being a dad in the child's life. Let's look at what a father is. A father, she goes on to say here, fathers are central to the emotional well-being of their children. They are capable caretakers, and they're disciplinarians. Studies show that if a child's father is affectionate, supportive, and involved, he can contribute in great ways to their child's cognitive, language, and social development, as well as an academic achievement, a strong inner core resource. Let me back up there. A strong inner core resource, a sense of well-being, and good self-esteem and authenticity. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I think of when I, consider myself as a father.
Yeah, I'm going to be a father one day, and I'm going to make sure that my kid has all those things. And
well, Brad, I'll just add my definition.
Yeah,
right?
please.
So I look at like you're kind of almost like a superhero to your kids, right?
Yeah.
Like your job is to protect them, provide for them, and be that stability, right?
Yeah.
And so, myself growing up in a home where there wasn't a father present, I was able to just run amok. How is my mom gonna control me when I'm 14 years old, adolescent, thinking I'm bulletproof?
Exactly.
Right. But there wasn't that structure, right? That emotional structure, that emotional rock of a father to kind of say, hey, I look at my own son. And I've grown. Our relationship is definitely better now, but I've come to realize this lately. I was the over disciplinarian, right? And because I don't know, there's no manual, right? There's no book.
No.
Hey, how do you be a dad? And I mean, there are books, but I'm saying how do like most people, how do you do this? You figure it out as you go,
Right?
But one of the things that just would, and I'll just give a shout out to the organizer and definitely trying to. Provide influence in Kingdom 2 and connect with my family and live with intention. I have come to the point where it's like, man, I'm doing the dad thing so much better than I used to, right? So kind of back to that, my definition
Because of the organizer.
Because of the organizer, right? So I'm living with intention in my children's lives. I'm loving them more. I'm leading with love. Right. Before this, I would be like, oh, you can't show emotion; it's weakness. I don't know if that's my military background or how I was, in essence, raised in the wild, as I put it. But yeah, just my mind has been changed to the fact that with the organizer in Kingdom 2 and kind of going through that process, the spirit in my home is different, and I'm doing kind of all that stuff she said in an article, just. Not as scientifically,
right? Exactly. You're not you're not keeping track of yeah.
But definitely and I'll go off on a tangent. One of the things that I've seen that's really big is kids are committing suicide or they're they're questioning their sexual orientation, whatever they're going through. And I've just seen where fathers aren't showing their children unconditional love. Like that's like really what it breaks down to is no matter what they do, you just have to love the freaking crap out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that term unconditionally, like you said, that's tough to do sometimes because we have judgments on various things, and it's really hard to let go of those sometimes, especially with your kids. And I do know this for a fact. I've, me and my career working with families, and I've literally worked with over 3,500 families in my career over a 30-year period, and I have yet to see a father that doesn't want their kids to have a better life than them. That's their whole goal. What can I do to set my kid up for success so that they can not experience the hardships that I did and be able to just jump right into success and again go on and be greater than they were. And so that's the humbling part of it, to see fathers have that role. But then their ways of going about doing it, like you're saying, is where maybe the challenge lies.
You're the role model. You're their first role model, right? And you kind of only get one chance to get it right. And so like being a father to a daughter, right? Like, your job is to, teach your daughter like how a man is supposed to behave, right? Like maybe I'm old school, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, like teach your daughter how a man's supposed to behave, be kind, say nice things, do nice things, and not in like a subservient way, but you serve the people you love. And so that's one thing I've tried to stress with my daughter for sure is just,
Well, and speaking of that, there's a paragraph here by Dr. Gail Cross that talks about that. Girls will look for men who hold the patterns of good old dad. for after all, they know how to do that. Therefore, if father was kind, loving, and gentle, they will reach for those characteristics in men. Girls will look for in others what they have experienced and become familiar with in childhood, because they've gotten used to those familial and historic behavioral patterns. They think they can handle them in relationships, and I have seen this over and over and over again. It's kind of an interesting phenomena that somebody told me early on in my career, and I'm like, oh no, I don't believe that, but now I do. Boys tend to marry a woman similar to their mother, and girls tend to marry somebody similar to their father.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting that Dr. Gross said this here. I was like, yep, I agree with this.
Yeah.
And so with that comes a great responsibility. I feel the need to put this out there too. Some of these things we're saying, we understand. I mean, I'm not a perfect father. Rich is. So therefore, just kidding.
I was about to say, whoa.
As you say, we learn as we go. And so there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in our relationships with the kids. And it's about figuring it out. And even then, with all the different personalities that our kids have, we got to adjust some things. But understand that that importance is there. And we don't say this to put stress on you or anything. I always say, be yourself. Just
do the things like,
again, love your kids.
Yeah, like do things that like. My friend Kyle, he put a post on Instagram a while back, and I just love it. He's like, it's a photo of him and his son at the shooting range, and he's like, date your kids, do special things with your kids, like where it's just one-on-one time. And I don't know if this is like family one-on-one, but I try to do those things, right? And I see the growth. And again, I'll just shout out to the Kingdom organizer. Like that, it's living with that intention to personally know your kids. And I think one of the problems that we're facing today is, we're checking out, right? And I think you come home from work, and your kids are on the Xbox or the YouTube, whatever it is they're doing, and you're, engrossed in your phone and your life, and it's like we've lost that connection, right? Like, even though I didn't have a dad in the home, me and my mom did so much together when I was younger. It was like we had that connection. We did things. We connected, right?
And those are the things you remember.
And those are the things you remember. I'd hate to be, my daughter and my son. I actually have two daughters. They go out into the world and they're like, yeah, Dad was never there. And funny, not necessarily funny enough, but I actually have a story about that. So I have a daughter who's in her 20s, and she's a I was gonna say great kid. She's an adult, like, but when I talk to her, I still think she's 15.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like in my mind.
Uh-huh.
But we haven't had this relationship. So I had her at a very young age. I joined the Army, and I was gone for 4 years. And then when I came back, I call it Uncle Dad, right? We hang out every now and then. We talk, around the holidays, and I have intentions,
Right.
Like I've heard Rick say before, I think about you every day.
However,
but it's just crazy. So lately, I've noticed that, man, I want to strengthen that relationship. So I pulled her to the side a week or so back, and I was like, hey, like, if you'll have me, I'd rather be your dad than Uncle Dad. And so we've actually started connecting on a level, and I'm hoping to repair that relationship. Not that it's damaged, but just strengthen it. And so, yeah, going off on a tangent, but I had to get that off my chest.
No,
it's important.
That's good stuff, because that reminds me of a time, because kids, well, think about it yourself. What do you remember most about your parents? You're going to mostly remember those experiences that you had of being together. And like, we used to take a trip every year from when I lived in California, and we'd always go back to Florida and visit some friends of the family that we had back there, and we'd do that every summer, and we'd be gone for like a month. My mom and dad would just throw us in the back of the station wagon, and we'd take off and drive for 5 days, and get down there, and that was just something we did every year.
Yeah.
And I remember that and all the ups and downs, and man, I have just so many memories of that.
Yeah.
But then me and my kids, they didn't have quite the upbringing I had. They had the two parents there, and
Yeah.
and I did everything I could. We struggled financially in the early years, as most people do, and then we had a period of great wealth where we were able to go do things and go to Disneyland and the typical places that families like to go to. Well, then we went through, after I had some surgeries, 10, 12 years ago, we went through a really hard time where I lost everything, and we had to be on food stamps. I don't say that proudly, but it was nice that was there. And I was just thinking, what can I do? Here we have nothing. What can I do that's going to be fun with my kids and all this stuff? And I wasn't thinking anything about it making an impression or anything back then. But every time we had the food card reloaded, we would go to a grocery store, get 2 carts, and we'd just get whatever we want. It was like a big a big opportunity for us to get whatever we want. And that's what I'd tell the kids, no limits, get whatever you want, put it in the cart and all this. And so we would do that. And I didn't think much about it. And then recently I've asked my kids, what are some of your good memories of childhood and growing up? And so 2 of my kids came to me and said, Dad, I really liked it when we went to the grocery store and loaded up 2 carts. Right? I'm like going, that's the memory you have? Yeah. Oh my gosh. But then that brought us closer together as a family, the way, because we included everybody. It was something that, we listened to everybody, we took their opinions, and we did accordingly. And those are the things that they remember. I thought that was kind of interesting.
They're definitely going to, it's those times where there's a strong emotional bond, like something, like they're not going to, hey, remember when we watched TV?
Yeah, exactly. They don't remember that.
They don't remember that, but they're going to remember those times. And take the time, to create those memories. I'll share another one I had. So I again, shout out to the Kingdom Organizer.
Yeah, dude.
I'm sorry. I'm
that way too. So I've got some stories that I want to share in the second hour about it. But anyway.
So I, talk about connecting. So my son, and I'm like, I need to do something to connect with my son today. And, I have this old classic car, and I'm like, I'm going to teach him how to change the oil. And so I bring him out to the garage, hey, son, this is the battery, this is the alternator, these are the headers, these are spark plugs, this is the carburetor, like just kind of pointing out everything in the car. And then, we put it up on the lift, get underneath it, and, this is the drain plug, just like going through that whole process and, change the oil and then, clean the tools. I'm like, yeah, son, clean your tools, like setting those good examples, right? Like that's me in my mind. And, and then when we were done, like the pure excitement, like the joy on his face. He just got to spend time with Dad. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's what he remembers.
Runs in the house. He's telling Mom, "Oh, Mom, it was great. I changed the oil with Dad." And I'm sitting there on the freaking creeper under my car, and I just start crying like a freaking baby. And I'm
yep,
like,
it touched you.
It did. Like, again, I blame it on the organizer for softening my heart. But
yeah, Rick, thanks for making this organizer. You've just changed all our lives.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there crying like a baby.
Yeah.
And then I wipe my tears, and I go inside, and my wife's like, "How was it?" And I was like, "Oh, it was good. It was all right."
Yeah, of course.
I didn't want her to know.
No, absolutely not.
But those moments, those are the things they're going to remember. And he still talks about it every now and then, or the times that I've taken him shooting, and then the lessons that I've taught him, while we're out, because that's where they're going to grow.
Right.
Right. Those little life lessons, like, things like hunter's education. I did that with my dad, and he taught me how to shoot a gun and taught me how to change. Like, I mean, I bet there's like half the kids in high school right now don't even know how to change a tire.
No. And
Right?
most of my kids don't. Anyway, having grown up on a farm, I got to do everything. My kids constantly ask me, "How come you know so much, Dad?" And I'm like, "Well, I've had the opportunity to do so many things." But then my kids earlier, because I used to always do, I mean, even today, even though I like to change my own brakes, brake pads. They're easy, simple. I don't know, even though it's no big deal to go to the shop and pay for it now. I just like it.
You're a better man than me.
It's such a simple thing to do, but I always wanted to get my kids involved, and they'd come out for 1 minute and go, "Oh, that's cool, Dad," and then they'd disappear, and I'd be like, and now they're like, "Dad, can you show me how to fix my brakes?" I'm like, "Well, if you would have just been there when I tried to show you."
Just tell them there's a YouTube video.
Yeah, go on.
Although you're a better man than me.
No, I'm not going to do that.
I tried to do the brakes on my car. I was like, "Nah, that's the last time."
That's right.
That's the last time. I'll just get it out of my hair.
Well, we talked about the effects of a father on girls. Let's talk about the effects with a boy. The boys, on the other hand, as Dr. I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due here. Dr. Cross here talks about boys, on the other hand, will model themselves after their fathers. They will look for their father's approval in everything they do and copy those behaviors that they recognize as both successful and familiar.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, your sons, our boys, are going to emulate what they've seen you do. They're going to treat women the way they've seen you treat women and people and do things. Like, that's just what they're going to do. And if you don't set the example, if you don't lead by example, I'm going to use an Army term here. You lead from the front,
right?
Then they're going to have to figure it out on their own, and they're going to do what they've seen you do. How have you treated people? How have you treated your wife, your other children? They're going to do the same thing.
Yeah. And here we go. This is going to validate what you're saying here. Thus, if Dad was abusive, controlling, and dominating, those will be the patterns that their sons will imitate and emulate. However, if the father is loving, kind, supportive, and protective, boys will want to be that. Human beings are social animals, and we learn by modeling behavior. In fact, all primates learn how to survive and function successfully in their world through social imitation. Thus, early patterns of interaction and all children know. Pause for a second. I'm going to say that over again. Those early patterns of interaction are all children know. And it is those patterns that affect how you feel or how they feel about themselves and how they develop. So your child is vulnerable in those early patterns and incorporates those behaviors, qualities, and his or her repertoire of social exchange. Wow. What a responsibility. Again, I just like to tell fathers that, none of us are perfect. Just do your best.
Well, you should, as a father, again, there are definitely plenty of resources and tools out there. Like, some of the ones that I've read, I wouldn't say it changed my life, but it definitely shifted my perspective, right? Is a book by Hal Runkle. It's called Scream-Free Parenting. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
So like my kids would do stuff and I would react over emotionally. Like, I would just be so emotionally invested in their behavior. And then in the book, he has a quote in there you're not responsible. I'm going to say this wrong. You're not responsible for their behavior. You're not responsible for their behavior. You're responsible to your children.
Correct.
Right? You're raising adults. And so
Correct.
that like flipped a switch for me. And it's like, but my kids were used to me reacting emotionally to something. Like, dad's about to discipline us because, he's been in the Army for 18 years. And I was treating my
Drop
kids
and
like,
give me 20.
Yeah. So, but I found I was like, like my kids would do stuff. Like, here we go. Perfect example. There was an argument in the house the other night about my son not wanting to brush his teeth. And before it had been like, oh, you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to play with your friends, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, hey, look, son, I don't care if you don't brush your teeth. But when the dentist is drilling out your freaking teeth and you're getting all these, and I started showing them pictures of dentists. You know what I mean? I'm like,
gross.
But I'm like, when you're getting your mouth drilled out, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Correct.
I'm not responsible for you brushing your teeth. I can.
Yeah, we do everything we can to encourage you in a nice way to do it and all that. But then when it's all said and done, you're the one responsible.
Hey, Dad.
And they learn through.
I'm gonna go brush my teeth now. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Right. But if he didn't, I wouldn't have, like, for me, I wouldn't have lost any sleep.
Yeah.
I'd have just been like, oh, you don't want to brush your teeth? Great. When you have 16 cavities and your mouth is getting drilled out and you're crying about it, don't complain to me.
Yeah. Well, and here's another thing, too, that I want to mention, or I feel like I need to mention in this segment here. I tell parents this all the time. I get it all the time. Parents will come to me crying, literally, oh, I've screwed up my kid. I can't, what have I done wrong? My kid turned out this way. Well, I have to tell parents, and I don't just say this to say it, it's reality. Stop beating yourself up. You did did you provide for them? Did you put a roof over their head? Did you love them every way that you could? Were you there for them when they needed you? And it's always yes, 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 yes. Then you've done your part.
Yeah.
There are just so many influences in this world, and I like to tell people that children, believe it or not, are God's most complex creatures. Okay,
and I thought it was women,
and they well
that too, right?
That too.
Yeah,
but and then I tell them, and then they got free agency on top of that. So I mean, all you can do is do your best, and sometimes natural consequences have to come into play if their kids get in trouble and have to. Suffer from, like you say, like with the teeth, and some kids will go to the effect where I have parents who their kids are in and out of jail because they're doing things with drugs and all this other stuff. And I tell them, you got to stop rescuing them. You got to let natural consequences take its course. And well, I feel like I'm not being there and supporting my son. No, you are supporting your son by letting him go to jail. Okay.
So like in today's age, I don't know if we're going to talk about like kind of the things that are going on.
Yeah, we are
in the world in this
segment.
In the next segment, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll save what I was going to. I'll tell you what I was going to say, but it's more like we don't let our kids fail anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like. Like we were just talking. Me and my wife were talking about the other day. Like we grew up before. I mean, when you were a kid, Brad, did you ever see a bike helmet?
No, never, never.
Like, did you ever? And it's so weird. Like I grew up in Alaska. And, the days when the sun wasn't up the whole day or the day it wasn't dark the whole day, I was outside all
day. Me too.
Down at the lake.
Me too. Building ramps out of dirt so I could
sharp sticks
taking
and
my army men and building caves and
Did you have hand sanitizer?
No.
I almost call it like this bubble wrap mentality. Like we can't fail and we're so worried about their feelings, and every kid gets a trophy, and it's like you're setting them up for failure.
Right?
Like my kids started doing this thing, like, and I know they're learning this in school about fairness.
Yeah.
And if kid's doing a chore and the other kid isn't, that's not fair. And I'm like, look, life isn't fair. Now, is it unjust?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, hey, if one person's working, maybe we all should be working. It's more of a justice thing, in my opinion, versus fair. And so I've really started hammering my kids with when they hit me up with that life isn't fair. I'm like, it just isn't. Like,
right.
And so we'll I guess we'll get more into that in the next segment.
Okay.
As far as kind of like how society's like playing a role and kind of where we're at. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a crisis because. It's happening, but there are ways out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called the Kingdom Organizer. But I think if we took steps early on in children's lives to kind of set some boundaries, some ground rules, and lead them with love, we wouldn't be experiencing a lot of the stuff that we're experiencing now, as these kids grow up, they grow into all that scientific stuff they said in that article, healthy, solid core, emotional stability. Now kids you're so worried about their, like, you can't talk about them in front of them because they've been taught to be like, oh, you're talking about me. I should have an emotional response that's negative. It's like, no, we're trying to help you grow, and it's just weird in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, let's finish this segment with this final quote here by Dr. Gail Gross. It says here, it is impossible to overestimate the importance of dad. For example, girls who have good relationships with their fathers, and this is documented, tend to do better in math. And boys who have actively involved with their fathers tend to have better grades and perform better on achievement tests. And well-bonded boys develop securely with a stable and sustained sense of self. Who we are and who we are to be, we are becoming, and fathers are central to that outcome. So again, are fathers important in childhood development? Yes, they are. And I know there's going to be people listening to this. Well, there's a lot of young people out there who don't have their fathers in their life, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Because again, that's the last thing I want to do is let people walk away from this thinking, well, I had a single mom and I turned out okay. Well, of course, but,
it can be done, but there's
but we're talking for men who are listening to us, if you want to have the best impact on your kids, that's what we're talking about here.
Be engaged in their life, and if you have children that you're not engaging, engage them.
Exactly. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion. Again, this is Brad Neufeld and Rich Post. We're here on the Five Kingdoms radio show. We're talking today about fatherhood and the importance of that. Man, we got a lot more to get into, but we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Walter, host of Rebuilding, a radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure to tune in weekly to hear more about the Tribe of Kings and to learn how to overcome fear and rebuild your life every day as you become the man you want to be.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, host of the Five Kingdoms radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure and tune in weekly to hear the latest and greatest on the Tribe of Kings and also to learn all those things that you need to do to be the best that you can be.
Sometimes what we want most in life is just a second chance to do what we should have done to begin with. I'm author Richard Paul Evans. The Road Home, the long-awaited final book in the best-selling Broken Road trilogy, is now on sale. The Broken Road is a story of hope and redemption. It's about a man walking Route 66 back to the only woman he has ever loved, hoping that she might take him back. If you haven't started the Broken Road trilogy, you can now read all 3 books without waiting. The Road Home, now on sale wherever books are sold, just in time for Mother's Day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're talking about fatherhood and the importance of being the father's role in a family. I'm your host, Brad Neufeld, and we've got Rich Post here as well. Rich, let's talk about something here. How I know we talked a lot in the first segment about the planner.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're focused on Kingdom 2 here, which is our family, our spouse and children and all that. And so how can we use this organizer? How can we use this understanding of the 5 kingdoms and that understanding that we got to have Kingdom 1, which is between us and our deity, and then the next segment here? What can we learn from all of this?
I think, and I'm going to steal some stuff from Rick because I can.
Okay, good.
I think we all have good intentions, right? Like, we start the day out like we intend to do the right thing. We intend to connect with our family. And so I think we have to get to the point where you change those intentions into actions, right? And I think, again, just referencing the organizer, where you start looking at that daily thing where you're mentally focusing, you're praying about it, you're connecting with that Kingdom 2. How can I live with intention in Kingdom 2 today, right? And so me personally, every day it's my kids, right? I put all 3 of them in there,
right.
And then my wife's at top, and I my day starts out with, hey, if you have a wife or if you're, if you have a husband and you're a dude, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. But every day I start out with, hey, how can I help you have a better day? What's your schedule look like? How can we connect? What are we looking at? What are the challenges we're facing together? Right. That's the married couple kind of mentality, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And then I kind of do the same thing with my kids, right? I go down the list, and I'm like, okay, how can I connect with my son today? Hey, what challenges is he gonna face today, or what can I do to make his day better? Is it just a hug? Is it just a high five? Or is it spending 5 or 10 minutes being interested in what he's interested in? He's downstairs playing in our game room on the video game. I'm not a big video game guy, but I've spent 10 minutes just sitting on the couch watching it. That's about all I can take.
Yeah.
But that's important to him.
But that's important to him.
Hey, same thing with my youngest, my daughter, Kai. Hey, you got dance today. How was it? Show me one of the new moves you learned. Like, be involved. And then my oldest, hey, what's your day like today? Can we go to lunch next week? Living with intention, connecting with them on a daily, depending on where your status as a parent. Are they in the home still? Are they out of the home? Like, but still having those moments where you connect. And I think the 5 kingdoms gives you that framework.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not.
Oh, very much so.
So specifically, if you're too involved, take a step back. Don't be a helicopter parent.
No.
But be involved enough that it's a healthy boundary, right? So that would be the start for me.
Okay. Well, and one thing also I want to bring up here is boys, especially, they want that approval from their fathers.
Yes.
And that was part of this study that we referred to in the first segment as well. Just understand that part there. If you never say, hey, good job to your kids, or let them know, again, especially the boys, if you don't let them know that, they're lost. They're going to do everything they can, and it hurts when they don't think dad approves of who they are.
It does.
It hurts.
It does. I mean, you can see it when they're doing something new. Hey, Dad, check this out. Mm-hmm. You can see it. They're wanting you to check it out, and if you don't give that, I won't say it creates a deficit, but it's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
right?
that's the word. Best word I can come up with.
And not necessarily like, hey, good job, but like just genuinely.
Like you said, interest. I'm very interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, because I'm up front with my son. Like, he's really into the video games. Oh, Dad, check this out. And like 5 minutes, I'm like, man, this is stupid. But hey, you keep playing.
Yeah.
Like, it's your thing.
Yeah.
And then also just encouragement, positive feedback. Like, you don't have to be like. I'll speak to the dads who are like disciplinarian, hard on their kids. Like, I was hard on my son, right?
Yeah.
Just it is what it is.
Yeah.
But here we go. Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breathe.
Exactly. Breathe.
Take a moment and just be like, you're turning this boy. You're raising a man. You're not raising a boy.
Correct.
Right? You're raising a man, and he's gonna emulate you.
Yeah.
Right? If again, all that scientific stuff in those articles, if you're connected, authentic, genuine, emotional, vulnerable with your children, they're going to be the same. They're going to be well-rounded and grounded.
Bingo.
Right? They're going to be able to handle the hardships. Because what are they going to do when Dad's gone? Mm-hmm. Right? If you've set them up for failure, well, some kids will make it out.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the law of averages. But some kids are going to have a harder time if you don't prepare them for the world. That's your job.
Exactly. Well, and I coach parents on this all the time. Like, they'll come to me and they'll start listing off all these bad behaviors, and you're here to fix my kid and all this stuff. And I'm going, okay, am I here to fix your kid, or to help you understand your kid a little bit better so that you can work with him on a different level? But I go in there and they'll say stuff like, because it's back to what I said. Any parent wants their kids to have a good life, and so they want to set them up for success. But I run into stuff all the time where they'll say, well, my kid wants to be a rap artist, and there's just no money in that, and I just don't want them to create false hopes. They see this stuff out there, and they think they can be on that level. And I have to tell the parents, support them in it.
Support them.
And the parents will just look at me and go, well, you're fired. No, but sometimes they'll say that, but I'm like, okay, let me give you some experiences that I've had here, and I've been right nearly 100% of the time. What I'll do is I'll tell the parents and convince them, let's support him in it and watch what happens. It won't take long before he changes his perspective on things.
So what's the worst? Did he become successful?
Correct. What's that exactly?
Right? That he learns from the failure if he fails.
Right. And I can't tell you how many times, Rich, that I'll tell parents that, and we'll support a minute, and then I'll sit down with the kid and say, okay, let me show you exactly what it's going to take. You got to practice every day, and you got to write your music down. You've got to start recording this. You got to start getting out and performing at fairs, at people's houses, in front of your friends, and you got to do this stuff so you can get good at this. You got to get used to performing in front of an audience. Within 3 to 4 weeks, guess what? That kid wants to be a doctor or wants to be a something else.
Whatever it is. Right? Yeah, that's my boy. He's like, oh, Dad, I'm going to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
And I nod.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Show me what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. What can we do to make money out of this? I'm a firm believer you can make money out of anything.
Sure.
And just let their creativity flow. But guess what? They will discover it on their own by you supporting them. Yeah. They'll figure it out on their own.
Let them dream.
Yeah.
You know, I coined this, so I'm going to just pat myself on the back. So there's a sticker that I put in my son's room right after he was born, when me and my wife were, it says, take flight on the wings of your dreams. And it just came to my mind. If I stole it from somebody, I don't care. Yeah. But I don't remember reading it anywhere. I just remember my wife wanted a quote on his wall, and I was like, let them dream. Let them fail. I mean, gosh, they're just going to grow. You don't grow from having this perfect, comfortable life. No. You grow from adversity. You grow from trial and error. You grow from failure. You know, they're going to grow from, be there. Be there when these dreams come crashing down, or your son, daughter, whoever experiences their first heartache. Be the shoulder, be the rock, right?
Exactly.
I tell my wife, I'll be your Dwayne Johnson, right? I'm here for you.
Well, you got the tats and everything. You can pass. You can pass. I can't.
I'm just the shorter version. Yeah. And so but that's what it's about. Like, I mean, I know, the rap thing just brought up old memories. I know kids when I was growing up, that was the thing. I was involved with it. I kind of, I joined the military, and that's not my thing anymore. Yeah. But my buddies are still trying. This is 20-something years they've been trying. Hey, one day they'll make it.
One day they'll make it.
Or they won't.
Exactly. And things open doors. That's the way I look at it, too.
Yeah,
So you just never know. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to delve into societal issues, kind of a thing. How is dad represented out there in society? We want to get into that a little bit. But anyway, after this break, we're going to jump into that.
Some people are born smart or beautiful. I was born electric. My name is Michael Vey. The Elgin Corporation created me. And now they're trying to destroy me. I've got friends that can shoot lightning, create an EMP, create light. I'm getting more powerful every day. Which brings me to my question. How much electric am I going to get before I am no longer human?
All right, we're back. We're going to continue our discussion here on being a good role model for our kids and the importance of fathers in our life. Rich and I have been talking about this through the break, and quite heavily we're talking about it. Fathers are, I don't want to say, not misrepresented, but it seems to be they're attacked on every level out there in media, in movies. And it is beyond me why this continues to happen. And again, I don't believe that there's people sitting in dark rooms and smoke-filled rooms and come out with this agenda of what they're going to do and everything. But
that's just what they want you to.
That's
think.
Just what they want. There you go. I love that. But I sit there and I go, okay, why does this continue to happen, and why do they represent fathers as absent, the drunkards, this
bubbling buffoon,
bubbling buffoon, and all this stuff in movies, when the reality and the statistics show a way different thing. 80% of the kids out there are raised in two-parent households.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely not the norm what they display in movies, and it could be something as simple as, because most movies are based on people's stories, stuff that they've experienced in their life, and that's how scripts are made. So chances are that person who wrote that script on that movie did have that kind of a childhood, and so therefore they represent that in their script.
Yeah.
And so I do understand that, but what kind of a light does that shine on fathers, and does it have an impression on kids to where they don't want to obey their fathers? Do they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, like video games make kids violent. Watching, stupid dads makes you not respect your father. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, like, I haven't read enough studies or whatever to be like, yeah, quantifiable, yes. But I do think that not just fathers, but masculinity and manhood and fatherhood are kind of under attack.
Yeah.
Not like some nefarious actors.
Right.
It's just a
It's
byproduct.
It's just
of
kind of
society.
happened.
It's just
Right.
kind of happening, and some of it's self-inflicted. Just men being bad men, and so it creating havoc or chaos in the world, and so it affects us all.
Mm-hmm.
But I would counter it with, as long as if you have a strong father in the home, if you don't have that, find a strong positive male role model,
Right.
and go after that route. But I'd also say that, it's funny when, like, kind of going back to what you said about how we're being portrayed in the media. Well, where's the positive
Yeah.
male role models? And there are some, but it's not.
Right.
It's not pushed that way. It's
Right.
it's just another show.
Yeah, 3 single guys who are dads to 1 girl. The fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how we combat that. I think today's society is it's all about victimhood and dividing people and political agendas. And we said at the beginning we're not going to get into the politics in the
Right.
show, but it's instead of just letting each other live our lives, we have to find a way a point where we disagree. And so if you're, the only way to make lives better for women is to bring men down and close the wage gap, and it's like, or just you don't raise the other side by lowering the one side,
right.
And so it's just like, how can we grow together? How can we fix these social issues? And I don't think anything's really going to happen until everybody's willing to come to the table and have an actual conversation without being emotionally invested. Like, oh my gosh, you said something that I don't agree with. Like, again, try not to get too political, but I think that's kind of the environment we're in now.
Right.
And my hope is as we start to spread the 5 kingdoms, we'll create. I was going to use the word army.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about we'll create
a kind and gentle army,
a community.
a community. I like that.
I think we can create a community of men and women who understand that the roles of men and women, right? Even though today's show is more about fatherhood, but understand a man's role is just as important as a woman's role in the relationship. And I even go, like, that's where we have to get to kind of combat, the imagery of the buffoon or the drunken dad or whatever, like the Homer Simpson, the Al Bundy kind of mentality. And as we teach people to go through these 5 kingdoms, create those healthy boundaries, healthy expectations, and to live with intention, just maybe, we can create an actual movement.
Yeah.
Right. I know that's the goal.
Well, that's the goal, and thus the 5 kingdoms curriculum is. I don't know if it was necessarily designed specifically for this, but I'm telling you, you gotta check this out. I have never seen anything like this. This is just the 5 kingdoms model is just.
We know, but
we know because of our experiences that we've had. Because
Yeah.
we've been living it for 2 years, and
there's countless stories of other men in the tribe of Kings who, because of the 5 kingdoms, I have a relationship with my children. That's Michael Sheen. I'll give a shout out to Michael Sheen. Like, I love his story.
Yes.
It actually inspired me.
Yes.
To reach out to my daughter, who I've been this uncle-dad relationship, and there's countless other stories, right? And so it's it's that is what's going to
Yeah, and
change.
I can give you my own experiences too, and Rick shares a lot of this as well. Not that I didn't love my kids; I've always loved my kids,
Of
and I've
course.
always, boy, if they need something, I'm right there. But I've noticed over the years that they don't call me as much, and I'm like, God, cat's in the cradle thing. What did I do to cause this thing? But then I'm back here to the organizer, and I'm focusing on my Kingdom One, and it's incredible how, when you ask, all right, what can I do for my Kingdom 2, for my family today, to get these inspirations of call your daughter and tell her you love her. It's like,
Or just
okay,
send a text.
just send a text, just anything.
Okay, yeah.
And it's amazing how this just happened to me yesterday, and I called my oldest daughter out of the blue, and you could just tell that she was excited to hear from me. And she's like, well, I'm just out here waiting for my son to get out of kindergarten, and I just sat there and talked to her. How's your experience going? This is your first child in kindergarten, and I know mothers usually have a hard time with that. And how's it going? And we got into a big old long discussion, and she talked to me about how, because her husband's in medical school, and they're going to be moving for his internship or whatever that's called, residency. They're going to be moving to Florida here this next year, and she just busted up about how is this going to go, Dad? I just don't know how it's going to work, and I'm so worried about how we're going to make this, and we're not going to make as much money, and how are we going to live? And it was nice for me to just be able to go, daughter, please just calm down. Everything's going to be okay. And you've got lots of help here. You can ask, and there's going to be things, and I'm sure your husband will be able to moonlight on some things and make some extra money. Things will be okay. And just to hear in her voice this starting to calm down and starting to feel like, okay, Dad, thank you. I needed that. And I'm like, if I hadn't have been doing this planner, that probably wouldn't even have been on my mind.
It probably would have come on. It probably would have popped up on your radar when it was crisis mode.
Crisis mode.
They're
right.
already in Florida. Things are tight. They're butting heads, and I would. It's advice time.
Yeah.
I would just make sure to stay connected. Right. You don't, again, the boundary of Kingdom 2 and the Kingdom 1, don't invade Kingdom 1 in your daughter's life, but be the solid Kingdom 2 that she needs.
Right.
Even though she's grown and an adult, she's technically still your baby.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, she is. And she's a daddy's girl, even though she's 30 years old.
And so, and then the other advice I would say is, and I don't know if you're doing this or not, but be the second dad to the son-in-law. Make sure.
Oh, and I am. I love my in-laws.
And so that way the relationship is strong because so as they go through the adversity, you can be the sounding board, the rock. They can call upon you, and then as you live with intention in the planner, and it's like, oh, hey, I need to connect with them today. How can I make your life easier? Right. It's going to be this ripple effect, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Dad is just so connected, and he's not overbearing, and so it's going to be cool to see.
And here's another thing too. I like to share examples of how this thing works because I'd been thinking about my third child, my son that's about 26 right now. 25. Anyway,
one of those.
He'll forgive me. Anyway, and I was thinking about him, but yet I also had I also asked myself, okay, should I call him today? And it was no. Then all of a sudden he calls me out of the blue. And this was just like 3 days ago, and he says, Dad, can you tell me how to make gyudon, which is a Japanese dish of this really thin sliced beef that's cooked for a long period of time, and you put it on rice. It's delicious.
Sounds amazing.
It is. It's wonderful. And he says, can you make that? Because I make it for my kids, and usually when I make it, because it's such a labor-intensive thing, I won't make it unless we have a big family party, and I make like 7 or 8 pounds of meat at a time.
Yeah.
And so, but he calls me out of the blue and says, well, I just want to make this for me and my partner here. And I said, okay, well, son, it's 4:45 in the afternoon. You're not going to be able to make that tonight. You don't even have the meat sliced, right? And he's like, no, Dad. And he says, but I want to learn how to make it. And I said, you know what? If I hadn't have been thinking about him, I probably wouldn't have had that space in my head to go, maybe I could just go help him make it, right? And I don't think that space would have been there. It would have been like, next family party down the road. But it was like, I had a feeling of, no, he needs you this week.
Yeah.
And so today, as a matter of fact, I'm heading to his house to show him how to make this, and so he can make that today. And so, anyway, kind of cool.
Great story. But again, kind of going back into the topic of the segment, but that's how we combat.
Yeah.
Right. You're providing that example, those memories, that structure that he feels comfortable enough to call out to you. Hey, Dad, how do I do this?
Right.
Versus I'm just going to watch this YouTube video. He has that respect for you.
Right.
Right. So it's almost like you've been living the 5 kingdoms, and now this just gives you a framework.
Right.
And I'll just reiterate my earlier point. As we teach men specifically this concept, they'll become better fathers, and then to their sons.
Yes.
Right. And we'll even take one step to their daughters. That way, their sons will understand and will have a positive outlook on what the male role is in a father and a leader, right? And then the daughters will understand the boundaries of Kingdom 1, Kingdom 2, Kingdom 3, right? And understand that concept and not necessarily, let's just say, pick better husbands.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you'll see, again, going back to the kind of the movement, right? Now think about it, like 10 years from now, you know, I mean, here we go. When does your young, you know, when do your kids get organizers?
Yeah.
When do you start teaching them these principles? Right? They're gonna see you live in it now.
Right.
And then, like, my kids see my planner out every day. Dad, what are you doing? And maybe they notice the difference, maybe they don't. But I think just leading by the example and creating the positive male role model is how we combat what's going on in the world today. Right?
Right.
The men are this all. What's this quote I read the other day? It just came to me. We got to teach our boys not to rape. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, I know. All that stuff just bugs me to
teach people not to rape.
Bugs me to no end.
Just teach kids the freaking golden rule. Like,
right.
Do unto others what you want done to you. Like, be nice.
Yeah.
Like, go out into the world and do nice things for people randomly.
Yep.
And
even people listening to us right now, they may not even know or be aware that these kind of things are happening, but just like anything else, now that we're making you aware of it, just notice what happens in newscasts, notice what happens in movies. Men are under attack like never, ever before. Again, I don't like to think that there's people sitting in dark, smoke-filled rooms making this an agenda, but it's like, holy cow, enough already.
But I think there is an agenda, though,
yeah.
right? Like,
okay.
I think if you look into it, not to get into, like, conspiracy, but, like, someone's profiting off that somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe, again, it's not a full-on, it's more covert than overt, like, out there.
Right.
Right? Like one that I was reading the other day, and I hate reading and watching the news, but they're talking about the pay gap.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, like, okay, again, how deep are we diving into this? Are we talking about the same exact job?
Right.
Because if they say, well, women are getting paid less, well, as a business owner, wouldn't I just hire a bunch of women?
Yeah.
Like, because I can pay them less.
Right.
That's how my mind works. So now are we talking about, okay, because... And I'll just use the military as an example. The military doesn't care if you're male or female.
No,
you get paid the same as the other E6.
Well, and here's the direct thing is I don't have them here in front of me, but if somebody out there requests this show, I'll definitely bring it up. But that is being misrepresented in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Women are actually making more money at specific jobs, in many of the jobs out there than men are right now.
Okay.
And the statistics bear that out.
You have a two-parent household, man. Husband and wife. They both have jobs. Who makes most of the money decisions? Most of the men aren't going out there like, hey, we need a new washer and dryer.
No.
Or this is what we're buying to eat for dinner tonight. And women, and I've seen the statistics, make 87% of the money decisions in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and they spend 80+% of the money
all
that comes
the
into the
commercials
house.
are marketed to women. So but again,
Yeah.
the people who are pushing that agenda are trying to. I almost think it's like it's a power thing. Like they
Right.
want to keep us divided.
Right.
It's a military tactic, divide and conquer. Right? It's if we keep
we
people divided,
pit each other against each other.
pit each other
then-
against each other. They're not going to really see
We're
what's
gonna-
going on. They just everybody's got their head buried in the sand, and so I think, but honestly, in my opinion, I think most people, most family units, are just trying to survive.
Right.
They're just mom and dad are going to work. They're just trying to pay them bills, get the kids to college, pay for the braces.
Yeah.
And the media would just have us think that it's all bad.
Right.
Like they would be like, oh, men are pigs, men are, rapists, yada, 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 teach boys not to rape, pay gap, all this stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, Rich, it just drives me nuts that this is set out there, and I feel like I can't do anything about it. But then now we have this show.
Yeah, you lead by example.
Lead by example.
Another
right.
one I would talk about is, you look at all these recent like school shootings and things like that, and these young men are doing these just horrible things, and it's like, where's your dad?
Yeah.
Like, again, we can't prevent all violence because
Right.
things happen.
Things happen.
Right? But
Yeah.
where was that positive male role model? Where was that? Where was that school teacher? Where was those, where were those friends, right? That should have supported that kid. Like one thing I've tried to stress to my children is, like, don't be a bully.
Right.
Include everybody.
Everybody. Right.
Right. Like it's like the humane not humane thing.
Yeah.
It's be humane.
Yeah. Reach out to those
reach
who are
out,
who are sitting by themselves.
If you see someone being picked on, stand up for the person being picked on. Like that's another thing I've kind of stressed to my kids. Like, don't be that guy. Don't be the person standing by. If you see someone who needs help.
Right.
Right. Like, because I think that again, kind of like that society. I think that's what's missing, right? That strong male role model who teaches you those values, right? When you're in school and you're, or no one's standing up for you when you're getting bullied. Like this is crazy. If when I went to school, if someone was bullying you, you could stand up for yourself.
Right.
Now, if someone's bullying you and you stand up for yourself, you're going to get in trouble.
You're going to get in trouble, so therefore.
Yeah, and then and I know we're kind of switching topics, but and then like the teachers can't do anything because they can't discipline the bully because of his feelings.
Right.
And it's like we're missing all that.
Right.
Coupled with all this other stuff is kind of the issue. And I think I sum it up in the most is kind of what I've heard this from a number of people, and I've actually seen it, is if you look at our society, it's kind of like a circle. It's cyclical, right?
Right.
So you have, right now we're experiencing some kind of hard times, right? And maybe things are going to get harder. We don't know.
We don't know
when that's going to happen, but those hard times make for hard people,
Right.
So actually, I kind of reverse it. I think right now we're kind of in we're in a good times,
Right.
We've experienced a lot of growth, a lot
We're
of
in
things. Everything's at our fingertips.
7 years of abundance.
Yeah, and,
If it's
bingo.
that.
Yeah, The Harbinger. There's a book out there called The Harbinger.
Yeah.
Read it.
Yeah.
But we go through this. We're in this easy times, and so it's creating soft people.
Bingo.
It's creating
You're hitting it.
it's creating soft people. So I think as it goes along in the circle, soft people are going to create hard times, right? Those hard times are going to create hard people, right? And that's when you see
Right.
the change is like the things that people care about now. Like, you really care about that?
Right.
Like, don't you have
Yeah.
you have something more important? Don't you need to go to the job to provide for
Well,
your
no,
family?
You're opening up so many different
Yeah.
things right here that
Yeah.
we're going to have a show on nothing but that because
Yeah.
I constantly, and my son even reminded me of this last night. He came to me and he says, "Dad, I think you're right when you say people have too much time on their hands."
do.
And he started sharing all these examples of things that people are doing and the things they're focused on. And it's like, I wouldn't even think about that, Dad, because I'm busy doing my sports. I'm busy listening to music. I'm busy playing my guitar. I'm busy doing all this stuff, and I would never even think about that. I'm like, yep, you're right, son. And again, I don't even want to get into some of the things that I'm talking about, but I think you know.
I think most people are trying to just live their lives. Like I said that earlier. It's like, how do you have... Here we go.
Yep.
If you're living with intention in the 5 kingdoms,
Yeah.
I don't think any of that would be
No.
an issue because...
No.
we can respect other people's points of view. We definitely can. Yeah. Whether it's gun control, gay rights, name the issue.
Yeah.
Right? Immigration, name the issue.
Yeah.
We can respect each other's points of view, but it's I always ask people, is your point of view based on what do you have to gain by your point of view?
Right.
Right? Like,
very good.
and so again, if we could come to the table with respect for each other's points of view, not get over emotionally worked on it. And that's 5 kingdoms, right?
Yeah.
I can respect your boundaries, right? I think we'd be in a better place. But again, this movement, This 5 Kingdoms, this organizer is going to change the world.
It's powerful, and I invite you to really get into it. Matter of fact, check out our website at www.5kingdomsradio.com. That's 5kingdomsradio.com. We're consistently going to bring you new strategies on how to work with work within your 5 kingdoms and make the most out of those. It's time for us to end this hour here, but Rich, this has been great. Next hour, let's get into some, I don't want to call them parenting skills, but we want to give you some tips on some of the things that I've learned over the years and that Rich has learned over the years from other people on we're really good at as human beings of coming up with what the problems are. I think we all see what the problems are, but we're after the solutions here. What are the solutions? What can we do to start this change that we're talking about happening? And so we're going to get into that in the next hour. Stay excited. Let's jump in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Walter, host of Rebuilding, a radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure to tune in weekly to hear more about the Tribe of Kings and to learn how to overcome fear and rebuild your life every day as you become the man you want to be.
All right, and welcome back to the second hour of the 5 Kingdoms radio program. I am your host, Brad Neufeld, along with co-host here, Rich Post. Boy, we're having a good time. We're talking about the role of fathers in our kids' lives as well as in our kingdoms. But I always like to say this is the show where you will discover how to bring more power, love, joy, and freedom into your life and less chaos. Again, our network here is devoted to helping people develop those 5 kingdoms that we talk about all the time. If you want to know more, please visit the website, 5kingdomsradio.com. That's 5 kingdoms with a Y, radio.com. All right, Rich, this hour we want to get into some stories and real life suggestions on things that we've gone through and things maybe that our members out here that are listening can kind of relate to help with their, how to raise parents, because kids are different today. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that when I started my 30-year career wanting to help families and whatnot. I mean, I started it clear back in 1988, so that'll tell you about how long ago it was. But I just had this notion that I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. I pictured myself in a white coat, as in a mental facility, a mental hospital, be Dr. Neufeld and all this stuff. But as I began studying and started noticing these kids today, and this was back in the early 90s, I'm going, these kids are different. I mean, I know me when I got spanked, I stopped doing the thing that my dad spanked me for. But then, spanking's a bad thing now, and I see these kids, and even if they do get punished, what do? They just go, I don't care. Just as soon as this punishment's over, as soon as I'm off being grounded, I'm going to go right back to the way I am, and there's nothing you can do about it. And just this attitude, and I was like...
It seems like a strong sense of entitlement.
Yes, it does.
I know what I can get away with. You can't do this to me. I have all this stuff that, that. I think that's the core of that issue you just spoke to. I can get away with it. I'm just go back to what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, again, kind of back to the first hour because they're missing that strong example, right? Or they see what they're seeing in the media, like, hey, no one gets in trouble for anything. I can just do me. I'm entitled to be me. And it's like, okay, you are, but there's definitely boundaries to that.
Right. And it can be very frustrating as a parent because, again, you're wanting what's best for your kids, and they're just not listening.
But you only can do so much, right?
Yeah.
Like, I look at my personal situation. Like, my mom probably got to that point, too, when I was out, coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning and all this crap. She's just like, I had to suffer the consequences of that.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this in the break. There's no real consequences anymore, right? There's no real ramifications for your actions, and you're entitled to your feelings, and you're entitled to believe the way you want. And if someone has a different, your parents we're not allowed to parent. Again, I'm not saying we should spank our kids again.
No.
But, if you discipline your children, it's detrimental to their mental health, and they'll think they're failures. They need to fail.
Right. And they need to know there's consequences in life. I mean, it's why do they need to know that? It's simple physics.
Yeah, Murray says it the best. It's like gravity.
Right.
It's just the law.
Law.
You know, and so I try to, you know, make it pretty simple in my house. Like, there's just things I will and won't put up with. You know, I got a young little boy. Hey, you pee on the freaking floor. I'm not gonna freaking clean it up.
Right.
I don't run a bed and breakfast.
Right.
You know, you are
Yeah.
my children, but I'm not your freaking maid.
Yeah, you need to know that
yeah.
if you do this, you're going to have to clean
You're
it
gonna
up.
clean up. You know.
And that's just life. I mean, you think about it in the workplace. I mean, can you go and just bust something up and then just go, oh, scot-free, I'm going to be okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm still going to have a job and everything. But, you know, no, I'm not going to clean up that mess I just made. No, you're fired.
Yeah. Right.
And if we see this all the time with teenagers because they come back and I just got fired today. My boss is a jerk, and some other 4-letter words and
I don't wanna,
all this,
I
and
didn't
it's
keep my
like,
job.
okay, is your boss a jerk or were you just
Yeah.
not doing your job? Which is it? Let's get to the
I have
bottom
one
of
for
this.
you. I had one where I actually got somebody I know a job. Got that, like, they literally breathed and got the job. Lasted a day.
Wow,
It's too hard.
Oh,
and I was like,
gosh.
what do you freaking, like, you don't even know what hard
it is.
is.
Right.
You know, you just graduated high school. That's like, congratulations. That's the easiest part of your life. Like, welcome to the real
world.
You know, where people have real problems. I'm sorry your friends didn't like you, or someone said something mean to you on Facebook. Like, this is the real world where you have
Right.
actual real problems that have real
Sorry you didn't
consequences.
get enough likes today for
Yeah.
your post that
Oh
you
my
put up
gosh.
there.
Yeah.
Don't get you started.
Yeah, yeah, because this person's very close to me and the family, and if I put too much of their life out there, it's not. I'm not going to be able to, like, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. No, everybody who knows me is going to know who I'm talking about.
Right.
But I love this person. But
Yeah.
like, here we go. It's a perfect example. Like, I've just seen this person struggle with. Ironically enough, it's like everything's in the first kingdom, right? Like, how they're treated. How, you know, the Facebook stuff, someone posted something mean and it affects you emotionally, and I can't connect with that because I was like, someone posted something mean about you that you don't even know this person. Why is this even affecting you? Like, I was blown away. I'm like, so someone I don't know said something mean about me, and I care about this. Why?
Right.
Like, why? And then I'll take it a step further. For me personally, someone I know says something mean about me, and I care about this. Why?
Right.
Do you pay my bills? You know what I
No.
mean? Do you pay my
No.
mortgage? Then I don't really care what you think of me.
Right.
You know? Like,
Oh, and there's so much of that. I'm constantly teaching my kids. I just call it water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
You know, when you put water on a duck, what happens? It goes right off. Yeah, that's how you need to be. It's Teflon. I mean,
Yeah.
when people say that kind of thing, just let it roll off.
Yeah.
They don't know you. They don't know who you are.
and again, why do
you
we care about this?
Exactly.
How does this affect you? Like, it was mean, and I think that's kind of that. I think we talked about in the last segment, that kind of that soft people thing. Like, again, we're more concerned about the feelings and how someone feels, and that it matters. But not everybody. Like, everybody doesn't need a trophy,
No.
right? There's a first place for a reason. Like, there are winners and losers, legitimately.
When there's no incentive to do better, there's there's no action.
Yeah. And so we protect our kids. I wouldn't even say that. It's like we're not allowing them to fail. Like, I remember when I was a kid, if you couldn't pass the whatever the grade is, you didn't go on to the next one. Right? There was no minimum grades, and we didn't give grades to make people feel good, and you know, and I think all of that's contributing. You know, our children are so, like, disconnected, right? And we talk about connection and how they can be involved in living with intention when their whole world revolves around how they're perceived by people around them, right? It's more of an image thing. That's kind of my own observation. They're so worried about how they look and what people think about them.
They call it the spotlight syndrome, just so you know, in psychology.
See, I'm spitting knowledge and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
And so I see that and I just go, like, you know.
I know my son does that all the time. You know, I can't go there. My hair looks terrible. Well, like, nobody cares, son. No, you don't know, Dad. You don't know. Everybody's going to be looking. No, they don't. They don't care.
They don't. Like,
Yeah.
one of the ones I like, kind of the same thing, like, I pick on my wife because, you know, people are coming over to the house. The house has got to be spotless.
Yep.
And I'm like, look, they already accept us for who we are. We don't
Right.
have to make it special.
They have
Like,
kids too.
we
They
don't-
understand.
We don't live in a museum.
Yep.
I don't care. And again, if they don't like how my house looks, you really don't have to come to it.
Right.
You know?
Oh man. Well, I wanted to throw this out there. This is something that I teach parents all the time. I call it the three forms of parenting, and
Okay.
I try to put things a little simple, and then we can kind of expound on that. It's basically there's three types of parenting. There's one that I call the dictator.
Okay. That's pretty
and that's
self-explanatory.
self-explanatory. In other words, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. You're going to do it this way, or I'm going to punish you. I mean,
Yeah.
just really hard-fisted style of parenting. The next one is what I call the helper. And what that looks like is, let's say your kid comes to you and says, "Dad, I want to go fishing. Will you show me how to fish?" And you tell that child, "Okay, go there in the garage, get the saw out, go grab it. You know where it is. It's hanging up on the wall. See that tree over there? Cut that branch off that's about 10 feet long there. You see that one right over there? Go do that and then come back and see me." And then they come back with that. "All right, the next step you got to do, you got some fishing line? If not, why don't you go down to the store? Here's some money, and go get down to the store and get 10-pound fishing line, and the guy there in the store will tell you what it is and all this stuff." Basically, you're just guiding them what to do, but you're letting them do it.
Yeah.
You're letting them actually having the experience. And the third form of parenting is what I call the rescuer. And let me tell you what that looks like. And you're going to think I'm kidding you when I say this, but again, I've seen everything when it comes to working with families. Okay. The rescuer is that parent that goes, "Oh, you poor thing. Oh, what? Your teacher was mad at you because you didn't finish your homework? I'm going to go tell that teacher and give them a piece of my mind. That's it. Oh, I'll do your homework for you, son. Go ahead. Go play with your friends. It's okay. Don't stress about it. I can do this for you.
I don't want you to feel bad.
I don't want you to feel bad. Don't worry. Here you go." Okay. That's what I call the
Seen
rescuer.
that. I've seen that. Okay.
So now those are three forms of parenting, but I ask the question at this point, what is the most effective?
You asking me?
Yeah.
I think you have a little bit of all three.
Bingo. Hey, Rich, you win the prize because most people just go, "Well, it's the helper." But guess what? You need a combination of all three.
You do.
Just well-balanced parenting. Try to hover around that helper part because that's what helps the kids the most.
Yeah.
But are there times where they're doing something that they're going to, get into some deep trouble for, or perhaps put their life at risk, where you need to put your foot down and say, "No, this does not happen anymore"?
Yeah.
Do you need to do that as a
yeah.
parent? Absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely times where you have to rescue them.
And there's
Right.
definitely times where you do, when you see them struggling with their math and they're about ready to just say, "Screw this, I don't want to do this anymore." Sometimes you need to sit down there and say, "Here, son, let me show you how to do this.
Yeah.
And I can do some of this for you, but I want you to take the time to learn, console them and be that rescuer. But always try to come back to that part in the center." And this is what I know, again, for a fact. I've seen this over and over and over again. Human behavior is very predictable.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that as people call me that they call me the teenager whisperer, and they call me I've got my magic what is it, whatever that ball of glass, I can't even think of the name right now, crystal ball, and I've got this and I can predict the future and stuff like that, because it's just, I've seen it so many times that if you do a specific action, you're going to have a specific result.
Yeah.
And I can sit there without fail and tell somebody, "Okay, you continue to do this, this is what's going to happen." And they're like, "No, Brad, you're wrong. You don't know me. That doesn't apply to everybody." "Okay, well, talk to me in 5 years." Sure enough, 5 years later, show me how that works. And so, but I do this all the time, and like I say, it can drive some people nuts that I say this, I be so direct with it, but it's the truth. And so you gotta, with the forms of parenting, always try to keep that in that middle ground there, because that's what's going to help your kids respect you. But here's the other part of this. If you do the dictator style of parenting exclusively, let me tell you what's going to happen with your kids, okay? They will respect you. They will honor you when you're in their presence, or they're in your presence, okay? But when you're not in their presence, they don't want to see you anymore. They don't.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with you. Okay? They're not going to say anything because, again, they're not going to show any disrespect in any way. But trust me, they don't want to see you ever again. Okay? Let's go to the opposite side, the rescuer. Okay? A kid that's been rescued, parents will over and over again, "I don't understand my kid. They're so ungrateful. I did everything for them, and they just hate me, and they don't want to be with me." You're right. They have no respect for you whatsoever when you've been that type of parent. And I see that over and over and over again. Now, what happens when you kind of hover towards that middle part? You have the best relationships that you could possibly have. Your kids respect you. They love it when you're around. They call you for advice.
Yeah.
They may not follow your advice, but they call you and ask you at least. And so you just have to ask yourself, what type of a relationship do you want with your kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think you definitely have to ask yourself. And I would just add to some of the things you said, like if you're a particular style of parent, and the three that Brad, you just mentioned, I would take it a step further, and if you find yourself right now, if you just listen to what Brad said, and ask yourself if you exhibit any of these behaviors, where's that coming from, right? And I chalk down almost every reaction or style or whatever it is you're doing to two things.
Right.
Does it come from love or fear?
I like that.
Right.
I like that.
And so if you're that dictator type parent, I mean, obviously it's not coming from love, right?
Right.
Or you think it is, but what are you actually afraid of? And I think that's a control thing. You're afraid of losing control, and that would be something that you need to focus on. Kingdom 1.
Well, then here's something funny. We can get into this later, but anger, believe it or not, is the final emotion that you show when you're fearing that you're going to lose something.
Okay.
Anger is a fear of loss, is what I like to say. Anyway, that'll keep you up at night, but we'll go into it later.
Okay. Yeah. And then you even get to the rescuer. The same thing, right? Love or fear, right? If you constantly have to go and rescue your children, like now there's definitely legitimate times
There is.
where you have to be I'd even rescuer / protector.
Correct.
I have a good story about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm going to rescue my kids because I love them. And if you're always rescuing them, what do and it comes from a place of fear, you're doing it too much.
Correct.
Right? You're in their Kingdom 1.
Right.
And so you gotta balance that. Like, when do you rescue them? When do you let them fail? You said it on the other segment. Oh, my son wants to be a rap star. I gotta rescue him from that dream because he's gonna fail. Let him fail.
Yeah.
And then the helper too. I think the helper leans most towards the love side of we'll call it a triangle.
Yeah.
And so I think, but again, you can also help too much, right? Because if you're too helpful, they don't get to experience the growth.
Yeah, and if they don't experience the growth, then they don't have the skill, because you have to do in order to learn.
Yes.
I like to point that out too.
Yeah.
So anyway, just kind of ponder that there. But if you have any questions, you can always call us or email us. I forgot to put the email out in the last segment there, but you can get a hold of us anytime at info@fivekingdomsradio.com. Again, info@fivekingdomsradio.com.
Can I add something to that?
Please.
If you're gonna, here's the rule. If you're gonna send us comments, they have to be constructive. If you're some special doctor and you got all these degrees, that's fine. Don't care about your degrees. Really don't. To me, it's an expensive receipt.
Yep.
Constructive criticism, but if you're just trolling, here, I'll make it even better.
Okay.
If you wouldn't say what you're typing to my face, then you probably shouldn't type it.
We will find you. No, just kidding.
Legitimately though.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like if you're gonna comment and you're gonna provide,
because that's what this show's all about. Because again, I love constructive criticism. You know this about me, Rich. I have no problem if I tell all my friends this. If I'm doing something that's out of line, call me on it. I'm not going to get mad.
No.
You couldn't offend me if you tried.
Yeah.
That's just the way I am. But I do like to know if I'm doing something that's.
Yeah, we call that spot checking. Like,
right.
If like I was going to say the term battle buddy in the Army, but they went away with that because certain people didn't deploy. So you can't call them battle buddies because in the Army we're worried about people's feelings now. Anyway,
I get it.
Different show. But yeah, like legitimately, like if you feel that we can improve our show or you have a comment that's a constructive thing, we want that feedback.
Right.
If you're just calling and, because you have some air of superiority, you think you're better than us, great. Go do your own show then.
Yeah.
We're not getting paid to do this. We're doing this out of a passion and from our hearts. We're passionate about the 5 kingdoms and helping people.
Passionate about making a difference.
Yeah, and helping people live a better life, and all that. So that's
awesome.
all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, very good. And if I add to it, this good show will go downhill fast.
Yeah.
But I want to share some other things here too. So think about those 3 parenting things. And again, if you have any questions, contact us. We'd love to help you in any way that we can. But this is early on in my career, as I was saying, I noticed how the kids were different. And so finally, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to do my own little research study. I'm going to ask kids what they want from adults. I don't know where I came up with this idea, but I did. And I said, all right, I'm just going to go out there and ask teenagers, what do you want from adults? And of course, they were giving me answers like, I just want them to leave me alone. I just want them to give me $100 and let me go do my thing.
Right.
And they'd say, this will date this whole thing. I just want them to give me a Walkman. That'll tell you when I did this, the area when I did this little study.
The yellow Sony Walkman?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it was the gray one at first, the gray brick one, but anyway. And so, and I said, no, you're not going to give me those answers. I want you to tell me right now, and this is your chance to tell the world, what do you want from adults and what do you need from adults? And we want some real life answers. Well, Rich is sitting here looking at this, and I'm not going to go into it in great detail here, but you can find out more about this on my Brad Neufeld show here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. But I call it the 10 things that all youth want. And these were answers that I kept getting over and over from kids, and they're in an order most prevalent. And so when we talk about, because Rich has mentioned this several times, our kids want somebody they can look up to, and they want somebody they can trust, and they're searching that person out all the time. And you need to be that for your kid. And isn't it amazing that was the number? Those were the first two answers there that they gave me. Isn't that incredible? They want that.
And if you're not that person, they're going to find it somewhere else.
They're going to find it somewhere else.
Right? Mm-hmm. They're going to fill the void with someone or something else.
Yeah, and the answers I was getting from these kids, because I talked to literally over 1,000 kids, and I would get stuff like, my parents lie to me all the time. And I'd be like, what do you mean lie to you? I don't know, parents lie to you? What do you mean? He goes, well, my dad tells me all the time we're going to do something on Friday, and we never do. And I went, oh my gosh, I do that to my kids. Because I'll say stuff like, well, maybe we can go out on Friday night. Well, I say that to my kid. In my mind, I'm going, well, I don't know if I can go out or not. I don't know if I'll have the money, but I'll just tell them that right now. Well, your kid's locked into.
You just promised.
You just promised that you were going somewhere on
they'll
Friday.
be like, you pinky promised. That's my kids. And I'm like,
right.
I just said we might.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, so you got to understand your kids are going to see that as a commitment.
Yeah.
And they may never say anything, and you may just think, oh, well, they're just off doing things. Oh, no, they remember it. Mm-hmm. And I also give this example because I've seen this several times where I'll be sitting at a restaurant, and there'll be a family there with the cute little girl, the 3-year-old girl that's kind of bubbly and having fun and all this, and they'll tell their kid, all right, you got to eat everything on that plate or you're not going to get any ice cream. What does the kid do? Keeps getting up and down, stands up, does some jumping jacks there on the bench. All right, that's it. Unless you've got to at least eat 5 parts of your, 5 pieces of your meat and half your vegetables, or you're not going to get any ice cream. What do? Slip down underneath the table, get out, take a couple of laps around the salad bar. Then they come back. All right, eat 1 piece of meat, and then I'll give you your ice cream.
Right.
Well, what have you just done to that kid?
You've given in.
You've given in.
You've given in. They push the boundaries, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They figure out like how many times does mom say no before she gets angry.
Right.
Like, they understand that, and they're trying to grow.
Yeah.
They're trying to understand the boundaries, and you just need to be clear. And I first of all, those are brave parents. Like me and my wife, we stopped taking our kids out to eat until they were about like 6.
Right.
But also like, this is kind of shifting gears on that. Like when people say that to their kids, like even like in our household, I started doing this thing. I go, now understand, like, have your child hold up their fist. That's literally the size of their stomach.
Yeah.
So when you give them like this whole plate of food, like my little girl is, she's 9 years old. She's like 50 pounds.
Right.
She's just this bean pole stick figure.
Yep.
She eats like a piece of bread and she's done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah,
literally,
okay.
That's all she can
And
handle.
literally, she's full, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're done. Like, I'm not gonna force you to eat. Like again, like if you're a parent in that situation, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you care?
Right.
Like, if they're not hungry now, when you get home, maybe they're hungry. Take the food home, right? Like, don't make a scene. Don't respond with this dictator mentality. Yeah. Right, and be like, oh, you're gonna eat your food. Like my kids do that. I don't care. If you're not hungry now, you're gonna be hungry later, and if you're not hungry later, maybe you're hungry tomorrow. You can miss a meal and you'll be fine. Let go. Like let go of that. Right. And then the same thing if your kids are acting up.
Yeah, you don't have to win that battle right there. The main thing is again winning the war,
Yeah.
so to speak, if you want to give a army analogy.
Yep.
Yeah, because another thing too, and I like to throw this out there as well. I gave up a long time ago on looking for specific parenting techniques that parents can use, because bottom line, we tend to raise our kids the way we were raised. It's just that way. And if there's a lot of things we don't like, then we'll make some adjustments and we'll say, well, this happened to me, so I'm not going to do this to my kids. Yeah, we'll make subtle adjustments, but at our core, we tend to parent how we were parented. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell this to all parents: I'm not here to change how you do things in your family. I'm here as a sounding board, and if there's things you're doing that's working, keep doing it. If there's things that aren't working, then let's change it up, and I can give you some suggestions. But you've earned the right to raise your kids the way you want to raise them, and I respect that. Yeah. But what I do tell them is the word consistency. Consistency is the key. Be consistent with what you do.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell your kid that if you get home from your date and they're grounded if they don't have their room clean, follow through and ground them if they don't have their room clean. Don't give them a second chance. Be consistent. Be your word.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make it. That's what's going to make you that helper.
Because again, you're leading by example,
right?
Because if you tell them that this is the consequence for an action and you don't follow through, well then they're just empty threats. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And I also like to throw this out there too. There's a lot of forgiveness in a household. I mean, we forgive our kids for their we do as a family. We know each other so well, and we do things, we screw up and we forgive each other. But in the real world, there's no forgiveness. We screw up, we're fired. Yeah. And in your case with the Army, I mean, you'll probably agree with me. You screw up, people die.
It could be that. The attention to detail.
And so, what are you teaching your kids by following through? You're teaching them that there are consequences to their actions. And if they do something, screw up at work, they're going to get fired. You're teaching them that now. And wouldn't you rather have them experience that now than having life teach them that?
Yeah. Well, your job as a parent again is provide, protect, do the structure, create the boundaries. You're sending a well-rounded. Your goal is to send a well-rounded adult out into the world, right? And if you've rescued them their whole life, right, then they're definitely. And I lean more towards that because that's what I've seen a lot in my sphere of influence. Whatever,
right?
Is when you consistently rescue them, they never fail, and then life is hard. Right?
Right.
They've never had to overcome.
Right.
And so the minute they're hit with adversity that they have to overcome on their own, they don't know what to do. Right?
Right.
They're waiting to be rescued again. You know?
Right.
And so they go back to their rescuer. If you're the dictator, and they're not gonna come to you.
No.
Right? And I think what happens to a lot of kids raised in that dictator model, they do the opposite.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
They're like, I don't want to raise my kids that way, and so they do something different. And,
Yeah.
Or they emulate it. Right?
Or they emulate it. Right.
And so, me personally, I was guilty of that dictatorship model.
Me too. At first,
because I'm just like, well, and it almost was like, it's almost like I was feeling disrespected.
Yeah.
And then as I've become more self-aware of my emotions and opened up, I was like, well, yeah, I was afraid of losing control, but what did I really have control of? I can't control your behavior. You have free will.
Right.
Right. But what I can do is give you free will inside a set boundary. Like what. And it comes down to what do I actually care about? Like, yes, I care about your health and well-being and all this stuff. There's some things I will definitely not let you do. Like the other night I told my kids.
But I'm doing it for your safety.
Yeah. If I ever catch you sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night, you're going to be hell to pay.
You're going to see the dictator.
Yeah. Now, if you don't finish your vegetables, I really don't care because I'm not going to finish my vegetables either. Figure out Figure out what you actually
Support
care
your
about.
wife in that.
Hey, and that's another one. Here we go. Here's a tip.
Yep.
Just throw it out for parents. Mom and dad, dad and dad, mom and mom, whatever. Don't ever, if one parent is doing the parenting, don't override it.
No, be consistent. Support each other. Don't let them. Yeah.
And this is something me and my wife have had to learn. and I'm not saying I'm better than my wife at it, but
Yeah, right.
when she's disciplining, I stay out of it.
Yeah.
And then if there's something I don't agree with, I talk to my wife on
Later.
the side.
Yeah, a date night or whatever.
And
Yep,
and I'm
perfect.
I'm like, hey, and again, like, if people would have known, like, had cameras in our house, we had our own reality show, like, I was probably the dictator up until about December of last year.
Yeah.
Like, it just is this thing, and like, oh,
The
man,
organizer came into my life.
legit, well, even before that,
Yeah.
I started to let go. But
Yeah.
like, here's a perfect example. Like, I used to get mad at my son because we'd be in Costco. I'm running around. I want to eat all the food samples, and I'd be like, "Why do you need to eat all this food? Like, just stop it." It would irritate me. Now, hey, Dad, I'm gonna run over to that food table. I don't care. I don't
There
care.
you go. Right.
I'll be like, "Don't get lost. I'm not waiting for you. I'm not. I don't do the food sample thing.
Right.
I'm here to shop and get in, get out. I'm gonna be over here.
Yep. There you go.
I'll be like, don't let someone steal you.
Oh, that's great.
Now if it's my little girl,
Yeah.
she's like, Dad, I'm gonna go to the food table. I'm waiting right here.
Right here, yeah. I know. Let's discuss. We need to take a break, but when we come back, let's get back into that because we do. I've got a bunch of funny stories to share about that as well. Anyway, our discussion today on becoming a role model for our kids, being in a fatherhood role, is what we're discussing today. We're going to get into a little bit more when we get back from this break.
Sometimes what we want most in life is just a second chance to do what we should have done to begin with. I'm author Richard Paul Evans. The Road Home, the long-awaited final book in the best-selling Broken Road trilogy, is now on sale. The Broken Road is a story of hope and redemption. It's about a man walking Route 66 back to the only woman he has ever loved, hoping that she might take him back. If you haven't started the Broken Road trilogy, you can now read all 3 books without waiting. The Road Home, now on sale wherever books are sold, just in time for Mother's Day.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, host of the Five Kingdoms radio show right here on the Tribe of Kings Information Network. Be sure and tune in weekly to hear the latest and greatest on the Tribe of Kings and also to learn all those things that you need to do to be the best that you can be. Welcome back to our final segment here on the Five Kingdoms radio show for today. It's been a really great show, and I appreciate Rich being here. Man, we're having fun during the breaks, going back and forth with stories and deciding which ones to share here. But I know he has a story to share. But I wanted to point this out here. Men do treat their sons differently than they do their daughters.
They do, for sure.
I told my son this. He had 2 boys. And he says, Dad, I don't ever want a daughter. I got my boys. I'm comfortable with them and all of this. And then his wife got pregnant for the 3rd time, and they found out it's going to be a girl, and he just freaked out. He's like, Dad, I don't know what to do and all this stuff. I don't know. And all this. I said, well, son, let me tell you what's going to happen. That little girl's going to be born, and you're going to all of a sudden get this part of you that says nobody's and nobody's touching my girl. You mess with my girl, I'm gonna it won't be pretty. And I said that's gonna kick in. And it was so funny after she was born, and he told me that. He goes, oh my gosh, Dad, I do. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but you tend to do that. I mean, yeah, you want the best for your sons, but you just don't have that protective factor that you do over the girls.
I don't know. There's probably some psychological study out there.
Yeah, there is. There always is.
But I'm like, I look at like your son's like an extension of you. Like you.
That's my boy. Go for it, son.
You're my boy. Like I don't worry. I worry about you, but you're me.
Yeah.
Like but like I don't know. Like I could be having like a bad day. And I don't usually bring bad days home, but I internalize it. I don't know, do what real men do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could be standoffish to my wife and my son, but the minute my little girl wants time, something, I'm just happy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's a different emotional connection. And there's probably some studies that say,
there is.
Yeah.
Yep, there is.
But for me, I don't know. It's just a different connection. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, because I hear this from dads all over. Oh, man, I don't even want her to date when she's 16. I want her to wait until she's 30 before she starts dating. I'm like, now wait a minute.
My daughter's like, Dad, I'm gonna marry you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No, but yeah.
You can marry somebody like me, honey. That's
And then
fine.
I always, like not bragging about my daughter, but she's cute. And
Yeah, go ahead.
all my buddies are like, yeah, when it comes time, we're going to do the scene from Bad Boys when the boy comes to date your daughter. I'm like, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Like, but also my hope is in this whole thing, kind of like to tie in everything we've been talking about, the positive male role model, the boundaries, the consistency, the structure, the love, the authenticity, the vulnerability, that whenever this boy,
Yeah. Right.
whenever he comes, that he is better than me. That's my goal. Like, he is everything that I've taught my daughter that a man should be and more. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Right? We can't control who they fall in love with, and maybe everybody's like, "Oh, Richard, it's gonna be bad. She's gonna be hell," and I'm like, no, I hope that by the time this all happens, that our relationship is so strong, like, not it should be, but like I'm just like we're so connected that it's like I'm gonna make you proud versus rebellion, and I think that's the dictator, the helper, and all that comes into play. If you're the dictator, your daughter's gonna pick an a-hole.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. But I hope every father out there who's listening now, like, I'll just always reiterate what I said earlier. Your job is to provide and protect, right? Like, and to create that role model mentality where you're the rock, right? You're the core. And then they look up to you and respect you for real, not because you've dictated them into it. Like, you've made them respect you.
Yeah, and here's something about kids, too. A lot of times we'll get upset because they don't mind us. We tell them to sit here for 5 minutes and they don't, kind of a thing. Well, this is, I don't know if you want to call this from the exclusively from the dictator-style parenting. It can be the helper, too, because doggone it, we talked about this during the break, too. There's so many dangers out there now. We're afraid to let our kids go out in the front yard. I mean, my parents would say, "Be back." I liked your example, Rich. Be back when the street lights are on. You're going to be home.
Yeah.
Because that was my life too. Just go play, go be with your friends, go out, go do stuff. Where now it's like, no, I'm not going to leave you out in the front yard. Some guy in a white van might come by and get you.
And it's crazy. Like, me and my wife have talked about it, and we're not going to change.
Right, good.
But there was always the white van. We just hear about it more now.
Right.
There was always dangers. The world isn't more dangerous. The media just portrays every negative story constantly 24/7. So there's more access to the negativity that's going on.
Right.
Right. And so
that makes sense.
But for me, again, I just say, even though that's the case, even I know that, I'm still gonna hold my kids closer.
Right.
Right. Because it is what it is. Here's a story. I remember talking about protecting and those. So we're at the park one day, and my son's a big boy. I mean, right now he's 11.
Yeah, he is, and I'll attest to that.
Yeah, he's 11 and he's pushing 140 some odd pounds right now.
Yeah.
But even as a younger kid, he was a head taller than everybody on his soccer team in his class, and he was born 2 months early. He was 3 pounds when he was born. So he's a big boy. Anyway, we're sitting there at the park. My daughter's playing soccer. My son comes running up to me, and, "Dad, there's a guy chasing me."
Ooh.
And I was like, somebody about to die.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
the fatherly instinct kicks in.
and I'm like, is someone seriously, like, what do you think I lift all these weights for?
You're right.
And so I'm sitting down, and as my son's running up, and he comes to me because he knows Dad's gonna protect him. He knows, and I'm so, like, if you're ever in that situation, make sure you stand up for your kids,
right?
Especially so. As I stand up out of my chair, this guy's coming, and I'm like, again, somebody's ready to meet their maker.
Exactly.
Because I'm about to send them there. I'm about to punch. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm about to punch this dude's soul ticket.
Yep.
And so as he's walking up, and he sees me stand up, and I'm not cowering. I'm not afraid, right?
Yep.
Because I'm protecting my family. And his whole, as soon as he's seen my, like, I'm ready to protect. Are you ready? And so his whole demeanor changed as soon as he seen me stand up and face him. And come to find out that his son and my son were throwing sand at each other.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Innocent, whatever. They're 6, 7 years old.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, my son's 5. And I'm like, yeah, so is mine. And he doesn't look it, and he's like,
No,
oh. But then later, the guy comes back and apologizes to me. Come to find out his son threw sand first.
Okay.
But still, like, in that moment, had I not stood up for my son, right? He wasn't in the wrong. Even if he wasn't in the wrong, if he was, I still stood up for him.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, I think that's, again, I use that story to, like, that's your job, Dad. That's your job.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of it. There's a whole lot of stuff in your job description, moving heavy furniture, blah, 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 blah. You know, name all that stuff.
Right.
But, you know, that's one of them. And so, and be consistent and provide the I don't want to call it a safe play. I hate that term.
Yeah.
Provide that protection, provide the consistency, let your kids grow. I'm not going to say every single anything on your list because I think you're saving that, but you know, give them the guidance that they need.
Right.
You know, teach them, like, specifically your boys, man. Like, I know we keep harping on this same stuff. Like, you're the archetype. Like, you're their role model. You're their first superhero.
Exactly, and you are.
Don't fail them.
Your parents. I mean, when those kids come out, you are their world.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts to change when they're 12, but we can talk about that sometime too. But anyway.
But yeah, just.
But I'm pointing to one of the 10 things here to Rich. It's called to be. Well, this is what I named it, to be adventurous. What that means is, and the answer that I was getting from all the kids when I was asking them, what do you want from adults? I kept getting this answer to, man, they just won't let me go and do. I want to experience life for myself.
Yeah.
And again, as a parent, you want them to be safe. So it's up to you as a parent to find that safe space where they can still be adventurous, where they can still go and do something and experience life. Because if they don't experience life, then that goes back to that rescuer mentality, and they will not be. Because I've had helicopter parents where I've told them, I've just had to tell them, you cannot be this controlling with your kids. I said, when your kids get to be 21, 22, they're not going to know how to handle life, and they're probably going to end up killing themselves.
They're gonna rebel.
And I can't tell you how many times that's happened. And I'm like, you know, guys, I don't have to be right. I don't, you know, but like I say, behavioral patterns are very consistent. If you're too controlling with your kids and they go out and don't know these ups and downs in life, they're gonna suffer.
Just decide what you're going to care about, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's a perfect example. And we use these stories to give you guys these examples in your own life. So buy the bug assault guns because we're shooting bugs in the house, right?
If you don't know what that is, look it up on Google.
Look it up. It's
bug assault. Yeah, it's
great.
Assault. It actually shoots salt at flies. They're so cool.
Yeah. So my son wants to take it outside the other day, and this is where I kind of overruled the wife, and I call her the wife. Hopefully, I offended somebody with that. And so she's like, "Oh, you can't take that out." I'm like, "Just let him go. Let him go shoot bugs in the backyard. What's the worst he could do, right? Shoot bugs,
Right.
You know, like, I don't care. You know, if he breaks my bug assault gun, I'll make him pay for a new one because that's the consequences of breaking my bug assault gun.
Right.
Don't shoot anybody in the eye. You know, like the
Right.
Red Ryder BB gun. You're gonna shoot your eye out. Okay, just go do little boy things. Shoot bugs, burn ants. I don't care. You know, like, decide what you're really gonna care about. Like, you know, what's the worst that could happen? Like,
Right.
Like, don't be afraid. Don't control kids because you're not going to control the outcome in the end.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're constantly grinding your children, dictating you're going to do this, they're gonna freaking hate you.
Right.
You know. You know, you're going to be very alone at the end. You
Yep.
know,
And that's more truth than you know.
Yeah.
So again, that's part of the parenting process, and that's. I'm going to go back to the planner myself. It's keep your kids safe. That's what your role is. Your first role as a parent. Is to keep them safe. And matter of fact, I tell when I work with teenagers especially, and they come to me and say, "Oh, my parents are just so controlling," even though they're not. You know, they say all these things, and they just are constantly there in my grill, and I just don't know how to help them to understand that they can trust me and all this other stuff. And I just have to tell the kids that, bottom line, your parents really only want 2 things for you. Okay, they're big, but they want 2 things for you. They want you to be safe, and they want you to be happy.
Yeah.
Okay, and every bit of their parenting is guided towards that end. And if they say, no, don't go do something, or we don't want you to hang out with a certain person and all that stuff, understand it's because they don't they want to make sure you're safe, and if they don't know where you're going, they have no way to know if you're doing safe things or not.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at your parents. They're just trying to keep you safe. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want them to trust me. Well, here's how you gain that trust.
Trust is earned.
Bring those friends over and let your parents meet them. Let them meet the parents of the friends that you're hanging out with. And if you're going to say, well, that's none of their business, well, then I'm going to take the side of your parent there, teenager.
It is their business.
I'm going to tell you that then I agree with your parents. You're not going to go over there.
It is their business because I'm, as your parent, I'm legally and financially responsible for you. Anything you do, it's going to come to me.
Right.
Right. And so, and I think kind of going back to we always go back to things we already said, but like, we're so disconnected. Like, remember when you knew every single neighbor? Mm-hmm. And you knew their kids, you knew where they worked. Like, I mean, I have a neighbor, like the other day, like some of his property got damaged last Halloween. I didn't even know his name. We've been neighbors for 7 years, 8 years. Like, I didn't even know his name.
Oh,
He's like
gosh.
3 houses down from me.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember growing up, like, you know, I grew up on a military base, but still, I mean, we were in these townhomes, and I knew every single kid on my block.
Right.
And my mom knew their parents.
Right.
And like, hey, so if you're gonna go have a sleepover, okay, I know who your parents are.
Right.
Right. You know, and so, but now they're, you know, kids are we're so disconnected as a community, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and so now, and then you add in kids have this entitlement thing, wherever that comes from, and they think they can do whatever they want. There's no boundaries. There's no consequences.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and again, I think, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen as much as it's prevalent, like in our mind through like the media and whatnot. But like, for me as a dad and as a parent, I hope that when my kids get to that age, I don't have to go through any of that.
Right. Yeah, me neither.
You know, because I definitely was that kid. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember, you know, I started out kind of young. I mean, I had a kid when I was 15. You know, like, because there was no boundaries. Like,
right.
I don't even have boundaries. I just was do whatever you want.
Right.
That's I don't nothing against my mom. Like, did she give up? But you know, she was working 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. You know, to put food on the table. So she was working nights, and so it was literally there was no boundaries.
Yeah.
There was no structure.
Yeah.
When I say I was raised in the wild, I was literally, you know, got into trouble, and there was no one. Like, if you go through the 10 things, the person that I could look up to was the person who was getting into trouble.
Trouble, right.
So I got into trouble.
Yeah.
You know, and
Again,
those are the people
follow
that
those.
I trusted, and I'm just, you know, and I felt loved in that environment, and we were out there having adventure
Exactly.
and fun with no structure, and the approval I was getting was from my friends who were doing the bad crap.
But you'll notice here, number 7, kids actually like structure. Now, I gotta kind of put a little disclaimer on this one. The kids that I got that from, almost all of them came from divorced situations where they just said, my parents just don't parent me. And when they were in groups and things like that, these kids would tell the other kids, when they'd say, man, my parents want me in at 9 o'clock at night, the kids from the divorced families would say, man, I wished I had a mom or dad there to tell me to be home at 9 o'clock. Man, you don't know what you got. I'd be like going, is this really happening here?
Is.
But the more I grilled them on that, they like structure. Now, they're going to give you some resistance. I mean, let's put it in perspective.
Yeah.
They're going to give you some resistance, but in the end, they're going to respect you for it.
Yeah.
So,
I think it really just depends on, like, there's a lot of other factors in that, like, what's the community, the culture, you know, the background of that family, you know, like.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard to find specific techniques that work, because every situation's different, and that's why I made my name on coming into situations and helping to create the best environment for what they, you know, for their family situation. And so, anyway, well, Rich, this has been fun. Let's wrap this thing up. I think we've had a lot of anyway, I talked about a lot of things today. I do want to bring it back to the planner and to the 5 kingdoms as we're wrapping things up, because bottom line, that's where it is. When you're in touch with your deity, you're going to get the answers that you need for your kids, because every one of your kids have different personalities. That's one thing that I mean, my oldest daughter, all I had to do was stay out of her way. Same with my my oldest son. They were homebodies. They liked to be home. I mean, they didn't go and cause any trouble. They went and did their dance and their tennis after school and their German club and all of that. And it was just like, man, let me stay out of their way kind of thing. But then I had other kids that were, you know, gave me all my gray hairs. And so, you know, and and to try to fit them into your little box is, number one, unfair, and if you want to talk about that, let them be who they are. I mean, they're born with these characteristics of desires and passions and things that they want to do, and in that passion is a good human being that wants to do good in the world, and you got to believe that.
Yeah.
When your kids are, when they're young, and so it's a matter of steering them and bringing the best of them out.
Yeah, and providing unconditional loves in those situations where they fail or disappoint,
Yeah.
or break those rules, or do something that you don't necessarily agree with. You know, like you don't, like families are being ripped apart because you just won't love your children, like when they want to do something that you don't approve of. Like
Yeah.
like you have this child and you have all these ideas of what the future is going to bring, and then they're their own person. Right. They have ideas on what their
Yeah,
future is going to
absolutely.
be. So let them grow. Let them grow and experience the life, and be there to support them when they fall, right?
Yeah.
Like you're the hand up, you're the rock they can lean on,
Yeah.
you're that person.
Because I have one of my kids, he's a naturally born entrepreneur. I mean, he started out 5 years old. Dad, can I set up a thing outside to sell, hot chocolate and crackers and stuff like that? And I'm like, sure. And he came back into me at 5 and says, Dad, I figured out a way where I can make more money on my chocolate. Don't put as much chocolate in there, and I can make this go. And I says, well, son, we got to talk about providing a quality product too. Otherwise, nobody's going to buy.
No one's going to buy your nasty chocolate.
But they were all learning and teaching moments that I wouldn't have had if I didn't, take the time to go out and let him set up the stand and show him how to do it and all that. So let your kids be adventurous. Let them know. You're laughing, Rich. Something
I just have a funny
did I hit a
story.
nerve? Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it. We got time.
So the lemonade stand, like I was just thinking, you're a better parent than me. My kids come to me and they're like, "Hey, Dad, we want to do a lemonade stand." I'm like, "I ain't gonna work. No one wants your nasty lemonade. I'll just give you $5."
Yeah, exactly.
That's like true story.
Was it that bad?
Well, you know what? I'm like, well, again, I'm thinking of all the logistics of a lemonade stand. We live in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah. No cars.
Like, you're gonna just build a freaking nothing against kids who have the dream. Like when I see those lemonade stands, I'm like, I ain't buying that.
Right.
Like, I didn't want you make you don't have a food handler's permit. I didn't want
I'll take your sealed bottles of water. But
Yeah, and so it's funny, but that story just came to me, Mm-hmm. But the other things they want to do, like, hey, I want to make money doing something, so I'll give them a job to do, So,
Right.
But not a lemonade stand.
Oh, that's cool. But yeah, check out the Five Kingdoms curriculum. You can do that at Five Kingdoms, fivekingdomsradio.com, and you can also, as we said, get a hold of us through email at info@fivekingdomsradio.com as well, and those will come right here. And if you have any stories or any things out there that you'd like to share with the world, that's what we're here for. We're looking for people who have been through challenges in life and want to share their experiences, because we know when we do that, we're helping other people, because then they can understand that there are people out there who understand exactly what I'm going through, and we can help them as well. But anyway, final thoughts, Rich. I think this has been a great show, and
if you don't have an organizer, hit us up and get one.
Hit us up and get one. So, and I'll put my phone number out there. We're still trying to work to get a company phone here, but I'll have it by next time. I won't just go through the email right now. I'm in the process of getting us a phone line here, so we'll be able to have that out there as well. But anyway, thank you for listening today. Again, we're here for you, to help you become the best that you can be, to help you organize your kingdoms and give you the information that you need. And check us out also at tribeofkings.com. That's tribeofkings.com to learn more about our organization, where we're all about helping men to be the best that they can be and rid the world of domestic violence. That's at our one of the core missions that we have. I love doing this show. Until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.